Fiona Apple's Tidal, which was released by Columbia in 1996, and on Sunday got a 9.0 in a review by Jen Pelly. Little bit of background, Fiona Apple was just 17 when she wrote the songs for her debut album Tidal, but she was more than ready for her big moment after a lifetime of classical piano training and writing songs inspired by jazz idols like Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald. As Pitchfork's review notes, Apple was equally practiced in writing lyrics, having obsessed over poets like Maya Angelou since she was a young child. To top it all off, Apple had some truly brutal life experiences to sort out with her confessional songwriting, including a rape at the age of 12, subsequent eating disorder, and numerous forced visits to psychiatrists. Her impressive musicianship and command of words would probably have made this record a hit on their own, but producer Andrew Slater tapped multi-instrumentalist John Bryan to add lush string, harp, and vibraphone arrangements, as well as some trendy trip-hop elements. Side note, Kanye has sung this album's praises and perhaps asked John Bryan to co-produce Late Registration because of what he heard here. Ooh. Tidal went on to go triple platinum in less than a year and made a late 90s superstar out of Fiona Apple. Oddly, though, her later albums are much more acclaimed than this somewhat uneven debut. AllMusic, for example, calls Apple's talent unformed and unfocused. It says that the lyrics strive to say something deep and important, but settle for cliches. Pitchfork might be the first major publication to declare this a masterpiece. Have any previous familiarity with Fiona Apple or this album in particular?
My wife is actually going to love this episode because this is like her favorite album. So I've heard it because of her, but I've never really listened on my own.
Wow. I know nothing about Fiona Apple, like nothing. I remember maybe a couple years ago, like 2012 or 13, she had that record that came out and Pitchfork gave it like a high 9.3 or something. And I tried to listen to it. It was like so uninterested. I don't remember anything about her, what it even sounds like. It doesn't sound like this, I don't think. But I don't know. I have no interest in Fiona Apple whatsoever and never have. This would be my first album of hers.
Wow. I at least knew the song Criminal. And
oh, well, I know that. And I like the video.
I was in love with the video. Oh, man.
Because she's in her underwear. Oh, yeah, that 17-and-a-half-year-old.
Yeah. Okay, well,
No, she's 19 by then. She's 19 by then.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was the underage person at that
That's
time.
True.
So,
That's true. Good point. Good save, Darren.
Haven't watched it since then, guys, okay? Haven't watched it since then.
God, you guys are so creepy.
But other than that, no, I'm kind of like with you guys. Haven't really listened to anything else from Fiona Apple for that matter. So, how would you guys describe the sound?
So it definitely comes out of that school, that late 90s school, which I always expected, which is why I skipped it, but of like Jewel, Sarah McLachlan, Tori Amos, whatever, all that stuff. Alanis Morissette, maybe even. This like confessional female singer-songwriter thing was just so hot at the time. And I always just kind of assumed that Fiona Apple was like some, I don't know, second-rate one of those. But to describe the sound, I mean, I think it's like that, but like a quite impressive like musician with like strong leaning toward jazz, like sort of complicated jazz chords on the piano, and like kind of a sultry voice that's kind of like Sade-ish at points. What would you guys add?
I agree with you. I pretty much always avoided her for the same reason, just thinking it was part of that scene that wasn't really for me. But yeah, she kind of with this stands out as like that, but like somebody who's a much better musician. It gets like very like jazzy jazz singer kind of thing, but not in like that super corny way. The trip hop like little influence. It's not like shoehorned in. I think it flowed nicely. So there's a much more like mix of sound on this record than I really kind of thought there would be.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with you guys. I was very familiar, obviously, with like Jewel and other like pop stars, I guess, of the 90s, like sort of singer confessional thing. Yes, definitely, but not with Fiona Apple, other than like Criminal. Cause it's like she just sort of disappeared or just wasn't getting a lot of airplay on the radio or MTV or whatever at the time. So I forgot about her, I guess. But yeah, I mean, you kind of like right out of the gate. I mean, before I even found out that she was 18 years old, I mean, just incredible craftsmanship and like such a confident sounding singer, like singing in a low register and then going, just really stretching it. on some of these other songs, I was just kind of blown away. And then to find out that she's 18, that, you know, the age really doesn't even have anything to do with it. It's just that, like, she could be 30 years old. Just I could immediately appreciate something like this versus like Jewel or Sarah McLachlan. Like,
yeah,
you know, there is like a clear difference between her and everyone else.
It sounds way more grown up than them, despite her being so young. And it sounds a lot more sophisticated, I think. Although, you know, just to cut right to it, I mean, I think this record like runs out of steam pretty hard.
Yes.
John Bryan is adding a lot here, like a lot, where these would be like really fucking, I mean, just downers. Like they would just be like these lurching piano things with like these heavy thudding jazz chords and like these, you know, just thick. I'm like falling asleep just thinking about it. But like he adds like, you know, he like does everything he can. It almost sounds like on every track he's like doing everything he can to rescue these songs from like just complete like dirge boringness or something. You know, like the trip hop beats and stuff, they sound like, you know, they were kind of added after the fact often, and just sort of liven things up, although they really do make it sound like exactly like Sade. Like that song, The First Taste, like could be a Sade song, I think. But you know, other times we're like that song Never Is a Promise, which I think is like the first bad song here. It's also a little top heavy, but he's like trying to work this like orchestral climax as hard as he can to like rescue this thing, and it's just so fucking, it's such a drag.
Yeah, this album is top heavy for sure. Like the first 4 songs are like pretty good. I was like pleasantly surprised. Slow Like Honey is like okay, but it's starting to lose a little steam. And then First
Well, it's
Taste,
like the first hardcore ballad.
Yeah,
and then it's hard to take so many more. But by that one, you're okay.
Yeah, but then, you know, First Taste comes and you're like, oh, no, you know, another one of these, and then, you know, you got 4 more to go, and it just never.
And they're all like 6 minutes.
Yeah, they're all long, and they just never really like get back to that first half. I mean, it's definitely better as an album than I like thought it was going to be, but yeah, it just really loses steam pretty quickly.
I think I'm gonna have to disagree with both of you guys. You know, I really like this, and I thought that
I really knew you would.
I thought Never Is a Promise was a pretty cool song. Actually, I would agree that you know, it's top heavy. I mean, the tracks "The Child Is Gone" and "Pale September" are hard to remember.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the other tracks, I liked it. You know. It has this like 90s feel for like dragging on a little bit. Like you are right. Most of these songs are.
Every song is like 2 minutes too long.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot there that again separates it. Like when I think of like, you know, a typical 90s pop album, I think of like any album that would just have maybe 3 hits on it, and it's usually like tracks 1, 2, and 3, and then everything else is just filler. And you get a ballad in there and whatever. This just doesn't feel like that, and I don't want to put it in that same category. Even though there's a little bit of filler here, I just don't think it's fair to say that it completely runs out of steam. You know, because that's what I think of happening to most other 90s pop albums.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you. Like, you know, this is heads and shoulders above something like Alanis Morissette and whatnot. So. It runs out of steam, but it doesn't really. It doesn't feel like the songs are like shoehorned in because we need some more songs. Because I mean, this album is just a little bit under an hour. You know, if they were filler, you could have stopped. You know, you could have left 3 of these off and still had a full.
You would have seen like
record.
14 songs or 15 songs or something. It would have been really.
Yeah. So I feel like, you know, I feel like I mean, she's 17 when she wrote these. You know, they're. So I feel like maybe she's like just a little underdeveloped as a writer. I've never listened to any of her later albums.
Yeah.
So
well, they're much more acclaimed, I think, her later ones. And this, I'll say that this record gives me an interest in checking out what are supposed to be her better albums, because I think in those early songs, I mean, she sounds like incredibly confident. The songwriting is interesting. The hooks are like in those first couple, like the hooks are there to guide you along on these really dense, jazzy things, and her voice is fantastic. I think her lyrics are never cringy. All music is like really mean, but I don't really binder lyrics very.
No, yeah, I didn't get that either.
Oh yeah, and I have to issue a correction because I just realized. So track 7, Never Is a Promise, with like the really maybe over the top string stuff. That's actually Van Dyke Parks doing the strings on that one.
Oh, really?
Of course, of Beach Boys fame, which we'll talk about next week. And and he did all the string work for like Joanna Newsom's Ease. But even he, I don't think, can save this